along the banks of the Schuylkill and Delaware Rivers, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A city that is rich in American history and culture. In the sporting world, Philadelphia is best known for its great boxing tradition. But on one day a year, a different sort of fighter comes to Philadelphia, as the world's greatest runners take to the streets to do battle in one of America's premier road races.
The Foot Locker Road Race of the Month is brought to you by Foot Locker, where it all begins, and by Bud Light. If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light. Hi everybody, I'm Tony Revis along with Steve Scott. And behind us, it's just underway the 16th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run. And Steve, this race has a history of record performances, and a lot of that's got to do with time of year. It's early in the fall, and there's two camps of athletes coming into this sort of competition. How's it line up for this season?
That's right, Tony. You got two different camps coming in. You've got the road running camps who have really run a long, tedious season here on the roads, and then you've got the athletes coming over from the World Championships and from the track over in Europe. And leading the road racing camp would be Simon Carori, who started off the season pretty slow. He placed way far back in the first couple races and has won two of his last three. And leading the track contingent would be Luketz Schwartzboy, who was a silver medalist in the World Championships in the marathon, but he wasn't real pleased with that performance, and he's looking for some redemption.
You know, our defending champion, Noel Richardson, is back. He's only run about 5 road races in his career. He's from Dublin, Ireland, more of a track and cross-country runner. He came in here a couple of years ago and finished second place in sort of a come-from-behind effort. He was just visiting friends who had gone to Villanova. The Irish connection to Villanova, very strong, and he was just visiting and got second place last year, came back and won the competition. But he hasn't been running as well in Europe this year. I mean, it's going to be tough for him this year to win this competition again.
That's right. Last year he was coming off a very strong European season, and that's really the key for a road racer. If you have a strong track background, you can go to the roads and dominate more or less and make the transition very easily. He had a very good 5,000 and 10,000 on the track. This year he doesn't have those fast times in Europe behind him, so he may find it tough here today.
He did tell us before the competition that he intended to try to, he would go out hard.
Well, it's a big difference from 2 years ago when I arrived over here, and don't think anybody in the field knew who I was, and I finished second. Then last year I came back with a little bit more pressure and won the race. So obviously there's more pressure this year. But in a way that's something I can sort of thrive on. I'm coming back this year as the defending champion, so it's up to the other athletes in the race to beat me. So I'm not getting bogged down with pressure or anything yet. I've got my own race strategy, and I'm not getting too worried about what others are thinking about.
Most of this race is run along the Schuylkill River. It's out one side, then they turn around with the Falls Bridge and run back down the other side. And a lot of times that's when this race is made. The 16th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run rolls along right after this timeout. Welcome back to the Foot Locker Road Race of the Month. I'm Tony Revis along with Steve Scott. We're past the 2-mile mark, and we've got a couple of Kenyans rookie Kenyans, so to speak, doing the work up front, and the rest of the people, including the more mature Kenyans, Gideon Mutisha and Simon Karori, are sort of letting them go a little bit. Last year in this race, we had a couple of very young South Africans who came into the race, ran well up front, and then faded very badly at the end. Larry Matthews is right up in there, as is Gideon Mutisha. Simon Peter is also in that lead pack, and he ran fourth place, actually 1 minute behind Mutisha, that Park Forest 10-miler, whereas Luket Schwartzboy, who was coming off the silver medal at the World Championships Marathon, is playing it very cagey.
I'm going to try to stay the first 10K of the guys, and then if I see the time is not so fast, then I'm going to try to make my move. I'm now in a good condition, and I believe I can do it.
Noel Richardson, our defending champion, is not in the pack right now, and that's something which is not totally unexpected. Like you were saying, he didn't have the best year coming in, and they're running a lot faster than they did last year.
That's right, and he knows where he is. I mean, an athlete, when they step to the line, they know what kind of shape they're in, what fitness, and what to expect. And you know, it's hard to be consistent on the roads when you're dealing with different distances, different climates. You're away from home. It's very difficult to have a real consistent race performance. And I think especially with the different distances. A track guy, you're concentrating on one distance. If you're miler, you run miles, maybe some 3,000s. If you're 5,000 meter runner, that's all you do. Where these guys are running 1 week a 10K, 1 week a half marathon, and it's tough to be ready for all those different distances.
It's a different task mentally. Well, we're going right through the center city.
Yeah, this course starts right in downtown Philadelphia. They run a 2-mile loop and come right back through the heart of the city. Then they hit Benjamin Franklin Parkway past the eventual finish line. At the end of the parkway, they pass the Philadelphia Art Museum. Then they head out for the long stretch along the Schuylkill River.
Well, we passed the 3-mile mark, and Steve, another 440 miles, so they're being very consistent. We have 3 Kenyans in front, Mutisha and Karori, who we expected to run very well, and certainly early, but we have a brand new kid up there, fresh from Kenya, one of Joe and Zhao's guys who lives just outside Albany, New York, and he's right from Kenya. What's he do? Goes right to the front, number 34.
Right, Alphonse Mundi.
And he's like 22 years old, and he's brand new. We know nothing about him. Watch him win the race. The Simon Karori Bunda, as they call him, which is wild donkey. And I mean, last September, he had a good PR in the marathon at the Berlin Marathon right around this time of year, 2:11:50. But he went out real hard and faded to that 2:11:50, and he sort of had a back and hip problems, missed about 6 months of training. But when he's on top of his game, he's a horse. Well, a wild donkey.
That's right, wild donkey. He actually is pointing toward the New York City Marathon this year. This is a tune-up for that race. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in New York City this year with Simon Karori.
And of course, Karori has been one of a contingent of Kenyans who have been living and training all summer long up in a training camp outside Boston in Concord, Massachusetts. So they've got a very good routine, and they've been racing very well off that routine. But he's going to go back to Kenya after this race for a couple of weeks before coming back for the New York City Marathon. Interesting to see if they can make that transition back home and keep his training going, because historically, the Kenyans based in America go back home and don't train.
Well, I think at this point he can go back to Kenya for a few weeks, and even if he takes a vacation for 2 weeks, he's got so much background behind him. I personally would not want to be there training with those guys in Boston. From what I understand, there's a whole herd of horses up there, and none of them could keep up with Simon on a training run. But last month, at the Crim 10-mile road race in Flint, Michigan, Alejandro Cruz did the unthinkable. He beat Simon Karori in a wild finish. It's one of the few times we have seen a Kenyan out-kicked on the American roads.
The guy back, Matthews Matswaratu from South Africa, is starting to fade. So one by one, it's going to start. This is like a marathon. You can almost see it pictured right now. Not one big move, but it's sort of an attrition.
Yeah.
One by one, they start falling off the back.
It's a battle. I mean, it's going to be a war out there. They're going to be dropping off one at a time. I imagine each mile we're going to find less and less guys up there at the front. But it's going to be a great race. It's shaping up to be very exciting, fast. We still got a good pack in there and some very good runners.
We'll be back with more of the Philadelphia Distance Run right after this break.
Hey, be careful. Stay wide, stay wide.
Welcome back to the Foot Locker Road Race of the Month. I'm Tony Revis along with Steve Scott in Philadelphia for the 16th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run. We're right along the Schuylkill River right now, just past the 4-mile mark. Gideon Mutisha, number 16, is leading the way, but number 34, his teammate now, is coming right to the front. In front of him, Alphonse Mundi, lungs and legs. That's the defining factor of the Kenyans. What's that pack look like to you?
I think you got both ends of the spectrum here. You got a few of the big-legged, big-chested Kenyans, and then you got Luket Schwartzboy that if there was a strong wind, he'd be blown right off the course.
He weighs 49 kilograms, which is like 110 pounds tops.
And I think that's wet.
Keith Brantley, the best American on tour certainly this year. Keith has been training with the Kenyans all summer long at that training base up in Concord, Mass, and he's right in there right now, but he's not going to the front row.
He's gained a lot of confidence, I think, from training with those guys.
First of all, you know, it's hard to see somebody's weakness when you can't keep them in sight. That's the first part. The second part is that I know that my plans are very different. At least my thoughts are very different than maybe Simon's thoughts. You know, he was originally going to go to Beijing. Now he's going to New York. He's been training extremely hard. I don't see how he can keep that intensity up. So I worry about what I'm doing and let him do what he's doing. And yeah, I am watching him to falter in races, but I'm not going to depend on him having a bad day for me to win a race. But I'm not going to change my race tactics for one person. If I'll look for the pack to dictate my tactics.
Keith wasn't beating these guys, but he didn't sit around and sulk about it. He went into the Lion's Den and trained with these guys to learn how to beat them.
Now it's time for this month's Power Bar Road Report. Power Bar, fuel for optimum performance. And we are happy and pleased and proud and all of that to be joined by Mark Flatches, who of course is just coming off his gold medal performance at the Stuttgart World Championships in the marathon, who we've seen, 3 or 4 times run this race. And you were saying last night at the party you never finished the Philadelphia Distance Run, and yet you're the gold medalist in the World Championships. Congratulations. Must be a special feeling.
Yes, it is, Tony. I think, Philly is known as a city of brotherly love, and they have to love me dearly to keep inviting me back every year, even though I haven't finished. So I hope, one day I'll be able to finish here.
Mark, your gold medal has to be so special for you, especially since you're wearing the USA colors. And
for 12 years, I've waited for the chance to be able to compete against the best in the world. And when I was finally given that chance at Boston after making the team, I had such a great focus. And I think I was I definitely had to be the most focused person in the race. I had 4 weeks of just the most wonderful preparations where nothing went wrong. I couldn't have asked for a better build-up. So I was, I think personally I was the most motivated. I had waited for a long time, and I was the most focused person in the race. And things seemed to fall into place during the race as well. So it was almost like it was meant to be, like it was a gift. And I gladly accepted.
yeah, fate takes its hand. Mark, thanks for joining us, and congratulations. That's this month's Power Bar Road Report. Power Bar, fuel for optimum performance.
Not listen to her. She's my older sister.
We're coming up on the Falls Bridge. The pace in the last mile really started to take its toll on this field.
And we have 5 men who are almost like the finalists at the round table in the poker game here at the Philadelphia Distance Run. And now Luket Schwartzboy has gone to the front, so we really do have a chess match or a poker game going on, because people keep matching bets and then upping it. Andres Espinoza, 2-time runner-up in 91 to 92 at the New York City Marathon, run 2:10:04. He's been under 28 minutes for 10,000 meters as well, so he's definitely got the speed. And again, we haven't seen him much on the road circuit this summer at all, but it's obvious he's taking the wraps off as he prepares himself for his fall marathon.
Oh, at this point, Espinoza would have to be a guy that you have to be really seriously concerned with. He hasn't been racing that much. People don't know that much about what he's been doing, and you gotta feel like he's fit and he's fresh. And the same thing goes for Schwartzboy. He's coming off of very little racing. It was a marathon that he ran, so it's just a matter of how much that took out of him. These athletes just recrossed the Schuylkill River, and they start their long drive back to the city center and the finish line.
Good, very good. Training for the marathon.
Think they can beat the old lady?
Right. Where are you from?
Seeker.
Tell her to slow down.
Keith Brantley now has been pushing it, even though that pack, no one has really succumbed to the move that Keith is making. It's almost like he's in front, but he's not really pushing from the front.
Yeah, I don't think he's trying to make any decisive move at this point. I think that he's just leading. He knows where everybody else is, and he's just kind of doing his stint at the front.
Do some people just feel better up front? I mean, it becomes very subtle. I mean, where you feel comfortable. I mean, some people just will not lead because they just don't feel comfortable up front. And other people, they can't sit and kick. They just can't do it because psychologically it just drives them crazy not to be in the front row.
Well, and also I think it's your freedom of space. Some people just like to be out in the front so that they're not clipping the heels of the guys in front of them.
It's Brantley, Espinoza, Karori, Schwartzboy, and Mutisha. Karori looks like he's absolutely just walking out there.
Karori looks so good.
It's like anytime he wants to lower himself into position, he can just power anytime he wants to. Whereas it looks like the fast turnover of Gideon Mutisha in the red shorts, he's more all out right now. We'll be back with more along the Schuylkill River right after we take this time out. Welcome back to the Foot Locker Road Race of the Month. Now it's time for this month's Reebok Close-Up, featuring one of our top women contenders here in Philadelphia, Colleen de Rook of South Africa.
I think it's just consistently have hard work, training, and just perseverance. And I think just having your breaks and your rests so that you don't get injured. Well, fartlek, you'd run hard for a minute and then you'd have like a minute jog recovery, run hard for 2 minutes, a minute jog recovery, and you just play with time. Minute to 3 minutes different fartlek, and preferably on a golf course. That's what I think, you know, if I run that hard and well and I feel good, I know I'm ready.
And Keith has opened up even more, and now surprisingly, Simon Karori is the one that's now 2-3 strides off the back.
It seems like Keith is running the old Kenyan tactics of surging. You know, he'll put in a good mile or good 2 miles, he'll back off, and then he'll get in the lead and push it again. This is the first time I've seen any sign of fatigue on Schwartzboy's face. He's been running very easy, very fluid, and looking very comfortable. And now you can see a little bit of strain on his face. So the effects of the middle pace, the middle fast laps that Keith Brantley was doing are taking their toll.
Keith's legs starting to look a little bit heavy, though.
Well, it's going to be survival of the fittest. You got a 3-man race, and at times they all look tired, but at times they all look like they're running still within themselves.
Espinoza is starting to, he really looks like he's suffering right now. He doesn't have nearly the fluidity on his arms that he had in the past. Brantley's pushing it. I mean, again, since his moves are not bluffs, he's definitely feeling the efforts of his own race tactics. Schwartzboy's sweating profusely.
Just a shade over 1 mile to go. We got a 3-man race. I don't think anybody's going to get dropped at this point. It's going to be a close finish. Great, man.
Well, now Schwartzboy for the first time is in front. Well, you know, I've always felt that what we ought to have in road racing is like a 1 kilometer all contact zone. Anything goes. Keith would win the race in that case.
Definitely.
Beat the tar out of those two guys.
Schwartzboy.
Just push Schwartzboy and knock him into the river. You almost get the feeling like you were saying, Steve, that no one's going to break it from here on. It'll be a kick.
It's going to be a close finish.
How's it going today?
All right. A little tired.
Does he always run with you?
And now it all lines up, but who's got the speed? Schwartzboy has faded in all his races in the past, but he didn't fade in this, but does he have a kick? Espinoza, boy, really is, I mean, his head is tilted. He's struggling mightily. And Keith's legs, Keith's starting to go.
But you know, Keith's got that 4-minute mile background, and I don't think the other two guys have a 4-minute mile to their credit.
We got 3 men with Schwartzboy dictating, Espinoza, then Brantley. We're going to take a timeout when we return on the Foot Locker Road Race of the Month, the finish of the 16th PDR. Stick with us. We're in Philadelphia for the 16th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run, the world's premier half marathon. And what a race we've got going. finish line, and we've got ourselves quite a kick. Sports Boy's in the lead, but Keith Brantley's right on him, and Espinoza. And we're looking at it. Sports Boy's got it.
Left like you wouldn't believe. He moved right away from him the last 200 meters.
Well, Lucas Schwartzboy hits the tape. Winner of the 16th Philadelphia distance run. You know, he faded in all those other races we've seen during the year, but coming off the World Championship silver medal in the marathon, I think it's got to be a surprise.
Oh, I think he came here with a vengeance. He wasn't happy with that second place finish. Was intent on winning here today. Keith Brantley put up a great fight. He moved in the early part of the race, put in some very hard miles, but Schwartzboy just had too much left at the finish.
Early on, one of the favorites, Simon Fiore, who pushed the pace and got
We've seen you third place at Boston, second place at the World Championships. How does it feel to finally win a big race?
Well, I'm just a new beginner, and really, it's good for me to win. But I'm planning now to run New York, and New York will be my first my first big marathon, and I believe I am going to fight for the win.
I think you're ready as well. Congratulations, Lucas.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's take a look at our Foot Locker scoreboard for men. Great race, Steve.
Oh, it was a fantastic race. And Lucas Schwartzboy with his first road victory in the United States with a winning time of 1 hour, 1 minute, and 26 seconds. And he was followed by Keith Brantley, Espinoza, and Gideon Mattisha. In the women's competition, even though the field was stacked with talent, the race broke up very early on. Local favorite Elaine Van Blunk came in second in this race in '92 and more recently represented the U.S. in the World Championships in the 10,000 meters. She led early on, but then dropped off the pace. Newcomer to the American roads, Australia's Carolyn Swallow, who had an impressive victory in the Cascade runoff in June, was gaining ground towards the end, but couldn't catch this woman, South Africa's Colleen de Rook, who burst onto the scene with a victory at Falmouth last month. South Africa has a wealth of talented distance runners that I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of in the future. And on the Foot Locker scoreboard for women, first place with a big victory, Colleen de Rook from South Africa with a time of 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 26 seconds, followed by Swallow, Prasad, Van Blunk, and Summers.
Lucas Schwartzboy has had a reputation on the American Tour as being a guy that fades late. Well, Steve, he not only didn't fade late, I've never seen him kick like that. And you got to understand that this guy has run 5 marathons in the last year, one just 5 weeks ago at the World Championships. Where did he get that kick?
I don't know where he came from. I thought personally that Keith Brantley was going to win the race, especially when he was right there in the last mile and the last 200 meters. But Schwartzboy came up with a kick like you'd find in a 1,500 meter race.
Next month on the Foot Locker Road Race of the Month, we're going back to his home turf, San Diego, for the Arturo Barrios Invitational. Until then, for Steve Scott, I'm Tony Revis in the city of brotherly love. We'll see you next month out on the roads.
Foot Locker Road Race of the Month is brought to you by Mellon PSFS. You're why we do our very best. And Foot Locker, where it all begins.